In this video, I'm going to go over the one core personal philosophy or mentality that I attribute all my success to. And I'm going to go over why you should implement something similar and how you can do it better than I do. So, one of the main reasons I truly believe that I can be more successful in any endeavor faster than the average person is because I always go all in. My tendency is to typically bet the house on anything I do because if I don't go all in, I know myself well enough that I won't be doing anything with it. So the analogy is basically burning the boats, burn the ships. If you don't know where that came from, it's basically a Spanish conquistador, Hernan Cortez. I think in 1519 he came to conquer Mexico with his soldiers and stuff, and his soldiers did not want to fight. They're just being lazy. They just didn't want to do any of that stuff. They just had a long travel. So what he said is just like, go ahead and burn the fucking ships. We're not gonna go back. You are going to fight here, and we're gonna win this. And that eventually led to the fall of the Aztec Empire, I believe. So small history lesson, but the idea is you remove all your other options and you bet all in to whatever endeavor you're going into. So there's two main reasons I always do this, and there's a reason why it works. So the first thing is you have to understand what humans are on a very, very core level. We are designed to save energy. At any given point, we will try to do the path of least energy requirement. So if you're going to do something, if you find two paths, one takes 1,000 kilojoules, which is the unit for energy, and the other takes 500 kilojoules to spend, your mind, your body is always going to go into the one that requires the least amount of energy because you want to preserve yourself. We want to sustain ourselves. We want to live as long as possible. And the way we work is that we want to save energy so we can last longer. It goes all the way back to survival. That's a bad thing because what that does, it's a good thing and a bad thing. What the bad thing is that when you go into a project and you have three other options, you're like, okay, this is anything can work. I'll try this. If it's easier, I'll do this. If it's easier, I'll do that. What you're really doing is you're telling yourself, let me just play a lottery. Let me just gamble on this. And if you gamble, there's guys who are not gambling and they're going all in and they're going to crush you. There's zero chance of not, there's zero chance of winning without calculated winning because the guys that are at the top level, they're extremely calculated. Excuse me. So you can't just be gambling and hoping to win. The second thing is when you go ahead to do something, your this is the counter side of it. Your brain is constantly thinking of all the negative things it can do. What the negative things is going to happen. If you're walking in the middle of a forest, your brain is actually keeping tabs on what's happening. That's around you. That's why your peripheral vision is always expanded when you're in an open space because you're trying to determine what else is out there if you're being attacked. So your brain is always looking for negative. So if you translate this to anything you do, let's say for example your business, and you're all in on it, and you have to survive, you're using your survival mechanism to actually basically go ahead and be successful. You're finding like, okay, this is my competitor's angle. This is how I can be better at this. My cash flow is this. I need to get my cash flow up to here. So these are the things you're utilizing your biology to serve for you rather than going against you. There's a caveat to this. I'll go over that later. But there's the impact of this is basically if you do this on a regular basis, you'll be forced to find creative solution. You're always going to be forced to find a way to get what you want, and that has been my mantra for my life, my entire life. It just takes advantage of the human process in a way that I cannot express, and it always, always, always serves you well. I have everything. I'll give you some personal examples. Everything I've done I can attribute to this. When I graduated engineering school, I did not know a lick of code. I did not know anything about software development. I didn't know anything about that. What ended up happening was I was able to just go into a job fair and somehow finesse a software development job. Now, most people in that situation would just be like, oh shit, I don't know anything about software development. If I I have to go to a new city to take that job. And if I go to this new city, I'm going to get fired within the first month because I don't know shit about coding. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I didn't do that. What I did, I booked a one-way flight from my small town to Toronto, and that's one of the most impactful decisions I made. And I started the job not knowing a single lick of code. Within the next 3 months, I essentially made sure that I learned coding better than anybody else. And fast forward a year after that, from my graduating batch, I was the highest paid employee in any of the corporations that were working. And all because I decided to go all in. I could have like thought of a fearful way as like, oh, if I get fired, I'll have to come back. If I don't perform, I'll get embarrassed. If I do all that stuff, I didn't let any of that. I was like, I'm going to bet the house on this. I think software development is the most important sector to be in for the next 100 years, and I will find a way to learn it. So that's one of the things that worked. Another example is when I quit my job, I did not want to have a side hustle. I didn't want to have 5 side hustles. I didn't want to have one thing and another thing and like a cushion or a safety net. None of that stuff. And I particularly strongly believe that was one of the main reasons that I was able to build a company that does about $1 million in annual recurring revenue within the first two-ish years, just strictly based off of that. And that's not something, the average person can do, because the average person can't take that level of risk, that they don't have that level of self-confidence. So I personally think this is, and I'm not saying this to brag, I think this is, I'm telling you the reason why I was able to do these things. And there's people way more successful than I am. And a lot of those people always say, like, you have to go all in whatever you want to do. So to basically go in, the benefits of going all in is you're basically harnessing the brain's ability and the human nature to work for you rather than work against you. And what it will allow you to do is basically build up all the creative solutions that you could possibly need to get out of the way. Now, the caveat I was going to talk about is when you're doing this, there's 2 ways to do it. One is you go in and you're really ultra betting it all in, where you don't know where your next meal is going to come from. Don't do that. There's a good way of doing that, and there's a bad way of doing that, and this is the bad way. What this will trigger you is your fight or flight response, and this won't allow you to make better decisions. It will it will allow you to make short-term good decisions, because you'll find like how to make $10 rather than $100,000, or $100,000 versus $1 million. What you want to do is use a strategy where your baseline is covered. You should have some sort of a baseline savings, or you should have some sort of I'm just talking about money. It could be for anything. You should have some sort of a baseline where like, okay, I'm going to be good for this many days, and this is what will allow me to do, put the fire under my ass, so I can essentially take more risks on. So if you have that baseline, it really, what it does is that something in your mind says like, okay, I'm good, but I need to be better ASAP. And this is the perfect place to be. You don't want to be in a place like, oh shit, I'm not good at all. I need to make like $10 so I can buy a meal. That's not the place to be. The place is, I'm good, but I really need to figure this shit out. That is the sweet spot that you want to be when you take your risk, when you bet. And this goes for everything. The same way I operate now is the same way I operate before. But the stakes are just different. Maybe I was saving $10,000 for 3 months out. Now I save $300,000 or $200,000 or $500,000, whatever it is. That it will always get bigger and bigger, because what happens is this human nature, it never goes away. When you're making millions of dollars, when you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, or you're making tens or thousands of dollars a month, what ends up happening is you always start to get complacent. So you always have to up the ante by keeping your base and making sure you're doubling down in whatever you're doing and going all in, or else people are just going to beat you in whatever field you're in. So hopefully that helps. I think everyone should adopt the mentality of going all in and bet in the house as often as possible if they're looking to go and become someone exceptional. That's my goal, to be exceptional, and that's what I'm trying to get to you guys as well. So hopefully this video gives you a little bit of clarity of my frame of thinking when it comes to anything I do. If you have any questions, drop comments. If you're liking these videos, let me know. We'll continue to make them.